and welcome to ETNR's Diwali party, Roll the Dice. In the due course of the next 1 hour, we're going to be chatting with three market veterans, Manish Chokhani, Madhusudan Kela, as well as Shankar Sharma. But before that, let's try and take a pause and reflect back as to what the year has actually brought about on us. Humanities won, science has won, and so have equity markets. With a parabolic 42% move that you've seen on the index alone, we managed to actually beat the performance form as opposed to the rest of the world. But with a fabulous year behind us, what is the year ahead going to look like? That's exactly what we're going to discuss with our three wise men today on the show. But before anything else, let me welcome on board my colleague, Nikunj Dalmia. Nikunj, hi, good evening. Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali, Aisha. And this indeed is a Diwali to remember. It's a Diwali to remember not because of the absolute rocking returns and the amount of wealth creation we've seen in last 1 year. It's a Diwali to remember because it's a Diwali which should be remembered in its true spirit. Victory of humanity. It is a victory of humanity indeed because science has triumphed. Human innovation as it is at its best in terms of vaccine rollout, and the spirit with which how collectively all of us have now managed to normalize our life. From the peak of pandemic crisis which has affected all of us, I guess life has become normal in a better manner. And what kind of India we are staring at, Aisha? Because markets ultimately are a reflection of economy and earnings. We are staring at India where suddenly things are firing all cylinders. The word animal spirits is back. Unicorns are getting getting created on a daily basis. Private sector capex has started. Markets at an all-time high. Air India disinvestment has gone through. So it's more like a textbook market where all the factors which in a sense are coming together and they are contributing to India's growth, and stock market is a pure reflection of that. And specifically about stock market, Aisha, $60 trillion of wealth or global wealth has got created from the March low, and that is a significant number. Now, are we likely to add on to this number? Will next year be a year of no return, volatile return, or parabolic returns? I guess that is we plan to discuss, ideate and debate on this very special Diwali show with our experts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, in fact, to celebrate this party right here on ETNR, let me welcome on board three market veterans. They've seen many a cycles, from roaring bull markets to even bear markets. Shankar Sharma, Madhusudan Kela, as well as Manish Chokhani on the show with us. Gentlemen, hi, happy Diwali to all of you. Madhu, I was listening into your conversation before the show. It's been a great last year. Happy Diwali indeed. But will the next year as well be as happy and shiny?
So Aisha and Nikunj, happy Diwali to both of you and the entire team at ET Now and to all your viewers. We sincerely pray that next year continues to remain as happy and as rewarding for everyone around. Now, coming back to my particular view, last 12, 18 months has seen unprecedented amount of wealth creation. The biggest and the best, at least I have seen in my career. Indian stock market adding more than $2 trillion in last 18 months in terms of wealth, and the global markets creating around $60 trillion of wealth from March of low. So obviously, these things are unlikely to get extrapolated over the next 12, 18 months. While one remains optimistic, but one will have to temper down on the expectation going forward. And I think making money will be more difficult. You will have to be very agile, and you will have to be open to rotating your thoughts. You'll have to open to investing in new sectors.
Shankar, same time last year we were debating whether a new bull market has started. Now everyone is convinced that a new bull market has started. Last 1 year has been nothing short of a year of dreams, both in terms of wealth creation and also in terms of how we are now finally at the right side of the corona war. What are your reflections for the year gone by, and how much of the good work what we've seen this year is likely to carry forward to next year?
So before I answer your question, Nikunj, very, very happy Diwali to you, to Ayesha, and all your team at ET Now, and also to my distinguished and dear old friends Manish and Madhu. It's always been a pleasure. I think we have been on several Diwali shows, and this is another one, probably one of the most memorable ones in the last 15 years, at least as far as I can remember, barring, I think, the 2007 Diwali show, which was around the same time, and that we were coming off another very solid year in the preceding year of 2006-7. This is something along those lines. After, I think it's really now 13, 14 years since we are enjoying a Diwali like this one. To answer your question, guys, I just tweeted that, the only area of concern I don't see too many concerns. Okay. I mean, we can always quibble about valuations and markets have gone up. And that's a permanent concern. As market analysts and investment folks, we should always be concerned about something or the other. Otherwise, it appears too easy. But the point is this, that when investment bankers start to make so much money, and I know a lot of my friends on the investment banking side who are counting their fat bonuses and and they are, the year end is coming. That is usually correlated very well in India, at least, with some kind of intermediate market tops. So just looking at the slew of offerings, and off camera, I was mentioning to Madhu, and the reality is that even on camera, I can say the number of issues hitting the market and the amount of capital that companies are looking for does raise the question whether a lot of the secondary market liquidity will get sucked into the primary market, and which leaves some kind of void in the secondary market. And usually you've seen the secondary markets precede a primary market rally by maybe 12 months or so. So the bull market starts in secondary, and then the primary market boom starts maybe 8, 10, 12, 15 months later. And we are exactly at that point from, let's say, April of last year, and about 14, 15 months into this bull market. And the slew of offerings is staggering, to say the least. So if I were to look at even a remote problem area, that could be the huge rush of QIPs as well as of the primary market issuances. That apart, I think we are still on a very, very good wicket on, let's say, a 2-3 year basis. I do believe we are due for some degree of correction, or at least not a correction in terms of price, at least in terms of time. We have gone up phenomenally, very short span of time. I think markets are taking a breather, and quite rightly so, but it's not something you should really just think that it's the end of a bull market or anything of that sort. I think that day will come, but definitely not in the next 12 months at least. It can best or at worst be a sideways to a slightly down market, in which still plenty of money will get made on an individual stock basis.
Manish, happy Diwali to you as well, and great to have you back on ET Now. Manish, we are staring at India like never before. One side, private sector capex has started, disinvestment drive and a complicated Air India disinvestment has gone through, and then you're seeing birth of unicorns, and now those unicorns are going public. Frankly, looks like it's an all-round party.
Yes, thanks, Nikunj. Let me also add my Diwali greetings to Shankar, Madhu, to you and to Aisha and all the viewers. Like Madhu and Shankar have said, it's been a spectacular year in more ways than one. Like you started off saying, it's a celebration of humanity, of what we overcame. And let's not forget, this time last year, people were worried about their lives, not celebrating how much money they've made. And I think it did give a sense of perspective to people that merely making money is not enough in life. I think a lot of us rediscovered relationships, rediscovered health, rediscovered a lot of our passions. So on an all-round basis, this is indeed a happy Diwali for everybody. And as you rightly say, India's time certainly seems to be here. As Shankar and Madhu rightly said, the market will go through its phases. We've gone through this typical phase where you reflate the entire market. There is some catalyst which happens in the form of the money coming into all this new age sectors, the whole reflation of the commodity complex, which has cleaned out everyone's balance sheets in a way which I can't remember for last 20 years. Corporate India balance sheet, banking sector balance sheet looking so good. And the government itself now accelerating its reform program, as you alluded to, Air India has gone, LIC is imminent. I saw the speed of response on the disaster which had happened with IRCTC, that the government responded so quickly. to an obvious error which was made there. So these are all good tidings for the economy to certainly be in an unprecedented period. I'm even more enthused that the entrepreneurial spirit of the country has been really unleashed. And it's coinciding with the unleashing of the Indian saver, who's not really had a lot of opportunities to participate in the past. And they've started coming to market. It's a young India. So certainly seems to be a good time ahead, notwithstanding that, as Shankar rightly said, we've run too hard, too fast. There are a lot of primary issuances coming. Maybe the market has to pause for breath. Maybe it corrects downwards. Maybe it goes sideways. But certainly not the end of the story. It's really beginning of a full economic cycle. And government also, I should add, will have tax collections which far surpass what they were expecting. So the cycle's really just starting. So it's fun times.
Madhu, I want to come to you, considering Manish just alluded to the IRCTC episode. Do episodes like these really derail your conviction in PSEs once again? Because I know you have some of the PSU banks in your portfolio. Or would you say that the government is right on its course after Air India privatization to bring in the disinvestment juggernaut, kicking and ready to roll? And they will not commit such episodes or mistakes anytime soon again?
Honestly speaking, it only reinforces my conviction. It doesn't deviate at all, because the fact that even a government of India can respond in less than 12 hours and admit that it was a freaky error which happened. And, there is a detailed press note which is being released that doing any of this, we'll have to keep in mind the interest of minority shareholders. These are absolute music to my ears, as far as PSUs are concerned. And mistake can be done by anyone. Why only government companies? Private companies do these mistakes many a times, even more glaring than this. The fact that they admitted, they acknowledged, they responded, and they corrected very, very swiftly basically proves that there is clear-cut recognition on the government side that fair amount of wealth needs to be created on these enterprises. And Ayesha, out of 100 listed companies, let us say even if it was something genuine, for a genuine reason, that doesn't make the rest of 99 companies look bad. And the other thing, you don't have to look at one action. You have to look at collective action as to what the government has been doing for the last 12 months. How this disinvestment of Air India, which has been hanging for years and years, debates after debates. Finally, it has got done. Let us, I think, celebrate this moment. There's nothing for me to think that this whole disinvestment process will not be taken forward. Now, it is a democracy, things take time. And let's understand what happened in UK when the disinvestment happened between 1980s and 1990s. The GDP, which was at minus for years, got 5% plus for 10 years in a row, because there are massive, very, very profitable disinvestment for the whole economy. So I am very, very positive, and I have no reason to believe that government has any ill intention to do anything of this kind. It is just a freaky error, and it's very, very heartening for someone like me to see that they've corrected it so swiftly.
Sure. Shankar, given the sectoral churn which is playing out in the market, and I'm going to keep aside the volatility of the last 2 weeks, let's analyze where there's risk versus where there's opportunity in the market. If I were to ask you to give me 3 buckets and categorize sectors or stocks within that, market cap agnostic, where do you think there's no return? Where do you think there's going to be volatile return? And where do you think there's going to be parabolic return from here onwards?
The no return is pretty simple, and that is the guys that we have studiously avoided for the last 15, 18 months, which is the Levers and the Nestle's and the ITCs and Asian Paints of the world, which are no doubt great companies, but they are not great stocks. At least they have not been great stocks for 18 or 24 months. They had great times in 2018, 19, when the rest of the broad market wasn't doing too well. And therefore, these were the stocks that did at least reasonably well relative to the rest of the market. And that created a story in the market that you buy these companies at any point in time and you're going to make 20% per year or whatever, some number. Is complete and total nonsense. You have to go back in their history and see the long periods of time when they don't deliver any returns at all. And I think we are right in the middle of that period when these stocks are not the stocks where you're going to, make any significant money. In fact, that's what I had said to some other, journalists that, a lever on Asian Paints is not the kind of stock that is going to get you a penthouse in South Bombay. Let's be clear about it. Not anymore. It will prevent a guy in that penthouse from going down to the street level. So yeah, so if you want to live in that penthouse that you already bought, you don't want to go down to the street level and go down to a slum, then these are good stocks. But from slum to the penthouse, these are not the stocks who are going to deliver you that. So that's the first question is easy. Parabolic returns obviously belong to the really unloved area of the market. Real estate was one such area. We bought quite a bit in the, let's say, March, April period in our schemes, DLFs and the others. They have done phenomenally well. Building materials was another big theme we thought, again, in line with real estate, which has been bombed out for a very long period of time. We said there's so much money being made in the stock market. Inevitably, some of that money seeps into the sort of real hard asset economy, and which is real estate. And if real estate does well, you have, stocks like Ajaria Ceramics or, stuff like that going to be doing well. And they have done very well for us as well. When people make money, they start drinking quite a bit. So Madhu's favorite stock, we bought the liquor stock. That has done very well for us as well. So we have been a little unconventional, let's say, in the last 4 or 5 months' time, buying multiplex stocks, buying real estate stocks, buying a few liquor stocks, buying a few, underwear stocks. When people stay at home, they don't buy that much underwear, right? But when they start going out, hopefully, at least we assume they're going to be wearing more underwear than in the last 12 months. So let's just say we have been a little unconventional in our strategy, and that's done very well for us. So the rupees, and the dollars and all that, they've been decent stocks for us. So those are the parabolic return areas of the market. Other than that, the steadier returns are obviously the pharma pack. They've corrected a bit in the last few months, but then remember, in context, they've done very well in the preceding 12 months. Again, Madhu has been a pioneer in that space, and hats off to his brilliant analysis, not just last year, but over decades of this space. I continue to be a believer, but those are, again, from this point, they will get you from the 10th floor to the penthouse, but not necessarily from the ground floor to the penthouse just yet.
Manish, the same question. From these levels, like you always say, focus on not where the puck has moved, but where the puck would move. Are we in for volatile returns, no returns, or parabolic returns? And if yes, let's throw in some themes, ideas where you think there could be no returns, there could be negative returns, and there could be parabolic returns.
So, Nikunj, it's not easy in a year where these kind of spectacular returns have come to speak of returns going forward in the same vein. So there will be returns, for sure. They always are in different sectors. And as the bull market matures, you get a lot of sector rotation. So like Shankar rightly said, the previous 12 months, you didn't get anything out of really consumer stocks, whether on the fast moving side or on the discretionary side, including autos. Some of these obviously are geared to changing dramatically next year. And I, for one, feel in media, you will see spectacular returns coming in the months ahead. The second area, which, again, you made returns in unloved areas like metals, materials, real estate last year. Going forward, the unloved area is, as Aisha was asking Madhu, is really the PSUs, where some of them will get privatized. And if you hold on enough, the sort of returns you saw when Maruti became a private company, when Hindustan Zinc became a private company, I think that still lies ahead of us. And thirdly, as we alluded, the leader of the last bull market was financials, which didn't really participate in this upturn. And Kotak and HDFC Bank really didn't do anything last year. And the trend has moved towards the corporate banks, SBI, ICICI, Axis, and some of the PSUs. Madhu will probably talk about, say, Canara and banks like that. There is some spectacular returns still pending on that side of the market because they haven't yet accelerated the lending book. And with small rises in interest rates, it actually starts benefiting these banks, as the spreads and the volumes both go up. So there's enough to do. And as I said, as the economic cycle matures, you will keep rotating from sector to sector until, as Shankar was saying, the money flow is not that robust to support everything. And then it will start narrowing until you get the final climax. But there's time away for that.
Okay, so it's time to roll the dice, and this time around I'm going to put Nikunj as well in the spotlight, and I'm going to be rolling the dice right here in my hand, and let's see what questions we can ask all our experts. So I'm rolling the dice now, and well, it's actually on number 1. So Madhu, let me start off with you then. Sensex 1 lakh. When and how soon?
It will happen. We don't know when. But I can bet it will happen in my lifetime for sure.
You should say 2 lakh before 2030.
Okay, great. I hope your life is long, but Sensex 1 lakh, happens much sooner. In the meantime, let me roll the dice once again, and we've got the number 6. Wow, from 1 we've got straight 6. Manish, I know you don't like talking stocks, but if you were to look back in retrospect, what's the one stock that you wish you bought?
Oh, I had bought Bajaj Finance and I sold it too early. So I wish I had held on. Which is the real fintech of India.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? The quantum you buy and how long can you actually hold on to it. Okay, now we have number 3. And Manish, given that, you in that sense gauge the market from macro parameters as well. So I want to ask you this. What is that one thing that's keeping you awake at night? And in the interim, are worries like inflation, taper tantrum, whether the RBI is going to move ahead in a hurry on rates or not, is that a worry at all?
Yeah, so Aisha, I believe, you make money bottom up, but you lose it top down. That's why I keep a view on top down things. Because this whole wall of money which came to this world post-COVID is a generation of the Western world and the developed world. And frankly, if they hadn't printed, we would not be celebrating this Diwali, however great our stock picking were. So the way this, 50% of the outstanding currency of the US has been created in the last 2 years. And you can just correlate the rise of asset prices with that, because they have to inflate their way out of trouble. And they keep saying inflation is transitory. It is not. The global supply chains are broken. No one has invested in capacities. If you go and see infrastructure in the US, it's like a third world country. So inflation is back. We are going to get a shock at some point on inflation and interest rates, and how the currency and bond markets behave is going to have major repercussion on our equity markets, because we are a subplot in the whole thing. So if you were to ask me what keeps me awake at night, it's when does the canary in the coal mine, what is it going to be? Will it be the UK pound collapsing one day? Will it be some bond market, crisis emerging in Europe or in US or in Japan? I don't know. And I don't know macro as well as that, although I keep an eye on it. But it is something which is going to come and hit us. And it's not too far away.
Madhu, how can I not ask you, even though Manish got that question, the one stock that you wish you had bought or sold too early?
I wish I took enough position in my highest conviction, that was Divi's Lab, and held on for last 20 years. I don't think I would have need to do anything more in the markets. Aisha, it has been 1,000 bagger.
All right, so I'm going to roll the dice again, and I'm going to roll this one on behalf of Manish Chokhani. There you go, and the number is 2. Manish, which is one IPO you think you look back and say, I wish I would have subscribed to?
IPOs generally I've not subscribed to, because you don't really get allocation. So there are a number of those, but the way I do it is after the lockups open, you'll be surprised at how many of these IPOs you get at fabulous prices. There's a very current example, I can't name it for obvious reasons, but in a good space, which we all love and understand, and it's probably 15%, 20% below IPO price, and it wasn't crazily priced to start with. So there's lots you can do. Actually, don't worry about IPOs.
Okay, I'm going to roll the dice last time. Like they say, last throw of dice, and this one I'm rolling on behalf of Madhu. And guess what? Just a coincidence, but it's number 4. And the question is, Madhu, it's not about Diwali is about celebration, but today we want to perhaps look back and understand from you that what, in a sense, you would say has been one of the big mistakes of investing career.
I think just selling too early. Just selling too early your winners and not doing really enough work on them to keep pace and not allocating enough capital on companies which you understood in the past. So I have taken a note of it. Hopefully we'll correct it in future, and hopefully markets will give us another chance, which it does.
You know what? We've got number 5 left. We've not got that on the dice so far. So Nikunj, let me see if I actually get number 5. And this one's coming for you. Yeah, 5. I could have asked for anything and got that. Nikunj, the one question that I want to ask you, since we guys interview all the top CEOs, the one CEO that you really admire.
Aisha, look, the most remarkable change agent, and this is the most remarkable change agent, I guess, has been the Tata Sons chairman, N. Chandra. He, in a sense, has really reset the normal for the Tata group. Capital allocation, thinking big, innovating, bringing the businesses together for a group which, in a sense, was suffering because of the pyramid structure, for a pyramid which had its own set of hierarchy. Chandra has been able to really change the entire workforce, design, energy, ethos, capability, and the scale at which the Tatas are really imagining. And I think that is somewhere getting captured in the way how the entire re-rating of Tata group of companies has happened. So like they say, the man at the top really matters. And I think Chandra has really demonstrated that by doing simple, easy but effective steps, how you can really reposition, reorient and change the dynamics of the business both in terms of technology, adaptation, relevation, and also creating value for minority shareholders. So for me, the winner, if I have to pinpoint in last 3 years, it really would be N. Chandra. But Aisha, why just talk about one? I mean, this COVID crisis in a sense has really has brought the best out of multiple CEOs, and I think that is the admiration which we must really acknowledge on this Diwali show, that where we are right now is because of tough, impossible, important and some good decisions which CEOs, the government and the administration has taken.
Yes, indeed. And on that happy note, let's wind it up on this edition of the Diwali party. Madhu, Manish, both of you, thank you so much as always for being part of the ET Now family, for always supporting us. Wish you a very happy, prosperous and more importantly, healthy Diwali.
Thank you so much. And wish you all the same, and to all your viewers as well. Thank you so much for having us.